Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and I have one of the little Wildmen from Beastmen from the Descent board game, and I'm going to use him as a Wildman in my game, and I've painted some more others of these. I came down here to do the Gnolls, but they're going to be a while before their prime is dry, so I'm going to do this guy for now, and then I'll come back down later maybe if I can squeeze some time in today. So the first thing I want to do is get a base coat of flesh on this dude. Sorry, I was moistening my brush. So I am going to, for my undercoat of my flesh, I'm going to use this pewter gray. It's a medium gray. And I'm going to water it down a little bit. Mine's a little thicker than I wanted. Mine was almost ketchup, and I wanted soy sauce. Now, this miniature is actually kind of interesting. It doesn't have an enormous amount of detail or anything. But it's so generic that you could paint it as a ghoul or ghast or anything like that, really, a white. You could paint it as a beast man. You could paint it as a werewolf kind of guy, like a, whatever. You could use this for a lot of different stuff. And, for example, I'm using it as a wild man. For the Crowshriek area. For those of you that are new, this is my second season. My first season I did the 3.5 Monster Manual in its entirety, and there's a playlist for that. You can watch it, and I make the Monster Manual, and it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it anyways. It might not be so fun for you, but I enjoyed it immensely. Some of them I did not enjoy. Some of them got very repetitive, but the majority of it was fun. And I don't care if I get a little bit on the base while I'm painting. Also, there's some kind of wraps or shin guards here, and I'm getting some paint on those, and I'm not worried about it. I'm going to come back and fix that later, so it's not a problem. What I want to focus on now is getting a good flesh tone on here. And I just want to do something a little different with my flesh tone. I want to try some new stuff. Try some new ideas I have about flesh and about people that are naturally dirty and filthy and don't bathe. And this was a good opportunity to test that out. Okay. So we have a pretty basic coat of that medium gray on them. If you're wondering how I start my miniatures, most times, if I'm doing a real miniature, I paint them black or dark gray, and then I dry brush them in white to show where all the details are, and then I use that natural gradient created by that process to use as an undercoat, and I thin paints down so that some of that sticks through and shows through on the finished product. As we dry him off here, you can see that we've maintained some of that natural shading in that paint job. So I usually don't use gray, obviously, as my undercoat, and I'm going to try something a little different here today. So what I want to do is I want to get a really soft makeup brush, something small and delicate. And then I want to use the flesh tone I'm going to use, which is going to be a mix of two paints. It's going to be this barbarian flesh color. This is an army painter color that I like a lot. And it's a little brighter than what I want, a little more beautiful looking. So I'm going to get a little bit of this mummy robes color and desaturate that a little bit. And this is like an off-white with like maybe a pinkish kind of hue to it. So I'm going to mix those together just like that. And I'm going to make this a little lighter than I want it to be because I'm going to come back and do a flesh wash on this of some sort. Some kind of wash to bring detail and such to it. So I'm just going to hit this guy up over that gray with this flesh tone and see what we can get as far as a good base coat of flesh tone on them. That's the plan here, and we're just going to make sure that we're very thorough and that we lighten him up very significantly, because if you don't lighten him up well, you won't get a good result with your wash. It'll be too dark and dingy looking, and he won't be interesting. He'll be just like a bunch of shadows on shadows. Now I'm going to grab a little bit more of that if I have any. No, I don't. Okay. We're just going to have to call this and use it until I'm gone. Use it till it's gone and we're not making any impact with it. I'm going to try to lighten him up a little bit more, especially in some of these areas around his legs and stuff that I didn't get well. Okay. Nice. So that's going to be my main look for that. Now I'm going to put this away. I don't need this again. And let's do his clothing. So on his clothing here, there's a very small doll. And I'm going to use that to be like an effigy of the unknown god. So let's get his hair sorted out. To do his hair, I'm going to get this. I have a color called Dark Stone. It's an army painter color. And I'm just going to get a little bit of that. I'm going to dampen my brush using my mouth. And then I'm going to come back and get that hair. And I'm going to be real careful that I don't get that on any of the flesh. Just taking my time. Doing the outline first. The outer edge, you know what I mean? Super careful. Now on his hairline here, this is a terrible sculpt, how they did the flesh to hair here. So you got to kind of just drag it along the top and catch those little couple of those sticky ubby strands if you're painting the same guy. I think I was off camera there for that, but I was just real carefully just dragging it along and catching that. Let's bring this down a little bit. There we go. Caught the front of my t-shirt there. I'm wearing bright orange. For safety reasons, obviously. Okay. So I've base coated his hair in that, and I'm pretty happy. And I think I'm going to use that same color as the base coat for his pants, or his waist wrap here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit that doll that we're going to paint as the effigy with the same base coat color. Being real careful not to get on flesh tone, so I don't have to come back and do any cleanup work. I probably will make a mistake here or there, and that's okay too. Sometimes imperfections can be turned around to be an endearing part of a model, or miniature, if you will. Sometimes they can't. Now I don't care if I get it on the ground a little bit, that'll be alright. Okay. Getting there. Now we're going to be real careful and come up here and get this top part. I need some moisture. I don't want to lick that paint so much, so I'm going to come down here and just get my brush damp on the edge, and I'll come back and get some paint. Being real delicate. Now, if you're young, let me advise you to take good care of your hands if you want to be in a hobby like this. I did not. I did amateur fighting and semi-competitive fighting when I was in the military as well. And I was big into martial arts, and I did jiu-jitsu and other arts, and a lot of mixed kind of... Back then we didn't call it MMA, but ultimately that's what it is now. And I did not take care of my hands, and I broke fingers a lot, and now I have arthritis really bad in my hands, and it's a burden. So what if you're young, I would recommend you take care of your hands. Don't do a lot of activities that destroy them. Think about what you're going to do with your knees and your hips and your back and shoulders when you get older, if you live like a maniac when you're young. Just keep that in mind, because it does catch up with you. So I'm pretty happy with this base coat. Now I'm going to get a color called skeleton bone and do those little things on his legs, those little shin guard things, those little shin wrap. And my brush is damp. And I'm grabbing some of that paint and I'm just smoothing it out and making sure that it's not clumpy or anything. And I'm going to come around here and just carefully, and I'm not going for perfection, a little bit of that flesh tone sticking out through there. It's not so significantly different in color that it's going to ruin anything. So once you get a wash on there, that's going to make a difference, and it's going to show very little difference. You're probably wondering why I don't use giant paint handles. And I have very cool ones. As a matter of fact, I have this awesome Dungeon Swag one. This is a promotional item. If you are subscribed to us for several months, ASCO will send you one of these nice paint handles. Yes, he did design that Dungeon Swag on there and everything too, so he's a very talented dude and a good friend. I would have to say the majority of the idea of Dungeon Swag did come from ASCO. And I, of course, jumped on board immediately upon hearing about it. Miniatures? Yes. I like that. I'm in. All right, so in his mouth here, he's got some red area that needs done. So I'm going to get a red paint. And using this brush, I'm not trying to hit every perfect detail of this mouth. What I'm trying to do is get in here and make sure I get that tongue and up underneath those top teeth. And then hopefully using the wash will add the other details that are needed. I'm going to switch out brushes though. I'm going to set that brush aside. I'm going to get an off-white. That mummy robes will do nicely. With a very damp brush. I'm going to hit the eyes. Then I'm going to wipe a little bit off the brush and drag that across those teeth. I'm just going to hit the bottom of the mouth a little bit. Something like that. I don't like to put these in water, so I'm just cleaning that out with my mouth to maintain that razor sharp tip that I've become accustomed to and love. Then with the Plus 5 hot air gun burning, I'm just going to make sure all this paint is dry. Now I'm getting a very small brush, something like this. And I'm going to get a little bit lighter of a brown. This is called oak brown. I'm just going to get a little dab of that in this very small soft brush. And I'm going to look for some 3D areas where I can bring some real variation and make a significant difference that adds to the miniature on these pants, or whatever they're called, on this penis hider. Okay. I'm just trying to create meaningful variation. So when I come back and lighten that up one more time, it's got some interesting color and texture available. And I'm just doing this over that effigy too. We're going to come back and deal with that effigy, or that doll that I'm calling an effigy. Now we're going to get a little bit of that light tan color and a little bit of that brown, that dark brown. And we're going to create a significantly more medium tone, bordering on light. And then we're going to wipe a lot of that off the brush. And we're going to come back again and hit some of the highest areas, like that little pouch, these little shredded pieces of fabric here. We're going to hit the top of his thighs with a good bit of energy, lightening those up. And then we're just going to drag it around until not much paint's coming off. And we're going to lighten that up one more time. Very, very limited lightening here. We're going from medium to a medium light kind of tone. And we're going to wipe a lot of that off. And we're going to hit the effigy, or doll, you know. We're going to come back on the back and do that pouch pretty good. And we're going to get a couple of those little just really sticky uppy parts. We're just going to rub it on there and grab a little bit of it. I'm going to hit that effigy again. Okay. We're not constant with the hair at that point. So we're pretty much good to go here, except for one little part, and that's the effigy. So I'm going to get this monster brown, which is a very, very medium brown that has a different kind of tone to it. It's got like a pinkish brown tone to it. I like this brown a lot. And I'm going to get my regular starter brush. And I'm going to wipe a lot of that off. And I'm going to just touch that effigy's face, arms, and clothing, so that it's obviously a separate part of the miniature now. Then I'm going to get that tan color. I'm going to wipe a lot of that off, and then I'm going to hit just the face of the effigy and the arms of the effigy. Now let's come back and get a larger brush, and let's paint this base dark brown. And on bases, I'm not going to use my nice paint. I'm going to use my crappy Dollar Tree paint, or my Walmart paint, I should say. So I'm going to get my Walmart paint. I'm going to dampen my brush. I'm going to saturate my tip. And then we're going to paint this base. And you want to make sure you don't let your brush dry out, or it'll get chalky and it won't coat it nice. Well, you got another thing when you're dealing with Dollar Tree paint, that, or Walmart paint, non-miniature paint. There's just little differences. And if you're a new painter, I would recommend you only use cheap paint. I say that because if you're going to be making mistakes and not happy with your products, and you're going to be wanting to change things or overpaint or figure out what your style is, I would say do it with a cheap paint. Because a big thing like this is like, I think, $3. And the little ones are $1.25 or 70 cents, depending on what color they are for some reason. So my thought is use cheap paint to get really comfortable, to understand how you behave, how your brush behaves, to try different techniques you want to try. Do it inexpensively, and then come back later, a couple years down the road maybe, or 30 miniatures down the road, or whatever you feel like you're ready to move on, and then try using more expensive paints. Save yourself some effort and some money, and people will disagree about that. Everybody has their own opinions. Some people think you should start with what you always plan on using. Well, I've changed my preferred paint brand over the years multiple times. And I even started out with enamel paints like Testors model paints on miniatures and moved to Citadel, which is Games Workshop's brand. And then I moved to craft paints to become a better painter and learn more about saving money in my process. And then I did go and I bought some Vallejo, or however you say it. And then always still using craft paints during this part. And then now I use pretty much exclusively Army Painter. I do have some Game Workshop stuff. I don't use it a bunch. And I probably won't replace it once it's gone, truth be told. Once I use it all up, that'll be the end of it. So I'm just going to get some black here. And I could have used craft black, but I still have not poured it into a container that's easy to use. I have a giant container of it, like a big tub of it. So I'm just taking my time and going around the base here, making sure I don't get it up on the platform part. And then I'm just going around the outside, around the outside, around the outside, gradually. And this will only take one coat for sure, because this black Army Painter paint here is very smooth and even and good. And I could probably save myself a lot of time and heartache only using this to do this kind of stuff. But I always use the cheap stuff when I have it easily to use. Alright. Wash my brush. Wash it all out. Sweet. This is a pretty easy paint job, and we can all see that. There's nothing too spectacular or amazing about this. Let's get the hot air gun, though. Now, using a cheapy soft bristle brush, I'm going to do a little bit of a variation tone on that base. And to do that, I'm just getting this color called Melted Chocolate, if I can find it. If I can find it. The hell did it go? Melted Chocolate, there we go. And this is just a mid-tone, a dark to mid-tone brown that I'm using to create a tiny bit of variation on my dirt area here. And that dirt area didn't come on the miniature. That's just a little tiny bit of baking soda, super glue. And I'm just going to drag this around and show that there's a little bit of texture there. And I will be coming back later and putting some flock on this. But not an enormous amount, just enough to add some variation in color, some bright green to make this stand out a little better. Pardon me. Okay. Right now, you could put them on your tabletop and not really be ashamed, I suppose. You could go right here and say, well, I'm pretty happy with that, and call it a win. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to get, I have a flesh tone I'm going to find. Maybe I am. Flesh wash, sorry. And I'm going to get my flesh wash, and I'm just going to squirt a little bit here. And I'm going to get a kind of a, where's that? Be something real soft. I'm going to get this brush. It's very soft. And I'm going to saturate that. And then I'm going to quickly rub him down. And I'm going to get in the cracks. I'm going to get in the hair. Now, you can make these washes yourself, but they're really not so expensive that I think it's worth it. But that's a decision you'll have to make for you and your family. I can't make that for you. These came, I didn't buy these individually anyways. These came in a set, a box set. And And I love the box sets because they give you a lot of stuff at kind of a discounted price, and you can do a lot with that. So once you're confident that you've hit everything you want to hit, you can come back through. You don't want to wait too long before you come back through, because here's what will happen. It'll activate that acrylic paint underneath there. It'll wake that back up and it'll start smearing it around. So you're limited to how long you can play with it after you've started. And you'll just have to play with it and figure that out. For me, I think it's about 1.5 minutes is you've crossed a line that you can't come back from. That's just me, though. Everyone's different. So now look at him. He is a lot more lively. He's a little darker and grimier. He's got everything we wanted him to have. I'm pretty pleased. The effigy is still highly noticeable. The white in his eyes isn't so vibrant and obnoxious now. You can see the little cracks and deviations between his teeth. That wash did exactly what we needed it to, but I need to get some inside that hand there before he dries. All right. Now, when you're using these washes, since I do believe there's oil in them. It doesn't say right on there, does it? No, but I believe there's oil in this. I would make sure I had some dish detergent in my wash water like I do. That's my personal thought. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Now I'm going to get my hot air gun, dry him off, and let's get some flock on that base. He's a little sticky, so we'll just be extra careful. Let's grab a tiny bit of clear glue. Where is my clear glue? Clear glue, where are you? Shit. It's up here. And you just got to check it for a condom. And it's got one. We'll pull the condom off. Can I not get the condom? There we go. There was a little chunk of something gross in there. And then you can use a toothpick or whatever you want. I'm going to use a piece of cardstock today because I don't have a toothpick laying here and I don't want to dirty a new one. So I'm going to get that and I'm going to push it with a little bit of pressure and make sure I get it down in the cracks. And I'm going to create an interesting shape for my little patches of grass. If there's any spots on the base you're not happy with, this is your time to fix that. Okay, I'm pretty happy. Now this was not a super highly detailed miniature, obviously, and we all saw that as I was working on it, but it had enough detail to tell a story and to represent what I wanted it to. And as we look at it, it's definitely good enough for your tabletop to be a monster to help tell your story. It has the theatrical appearance of a crazy wild person, and that's what we needed. So I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today. Please do all the things the YouTube algorithm gods demand of us: like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, leave comments, and all the happy crappy there. Come to the website, buy some miniatures. We have an awesome discount code right now. If you're a new customer, your first box is 40% off with the coupon code that is linked in the description. Also, come to Discord and hang out. Keep your eyes peeled. I do believe there will be another Valentine's Day sale the day before and the day of Valentine's Day appearing, but that's also up in the air at the moment. We're working on that, trying to get that to happen. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.